Hello, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to another episode of Your Daily Armor. Today's topic, you might want to go back to the office and write this one up. Kind of a long topic, I know. So, when I started to work as a police officer, I really wanted to work narcotics. I was never really into drugs. I did grow up in a small border town, and maybe it was the fact that when I was in 8th grade, my soccer coach, who was a police sergeant at the time, was killed by a drug dealer. So he was a sergeant at the local police department. He was assigned to their DEA task force. So he pulls over a drug dealer. The guy takes off running. He gets out of his car, starts chasing after him. Suspect turns around, shoots him, kills him. And I remember going to this funeral service in my soccer uniform in 8th grade, not understanding why somebody would want to kill or even shoot a police officer. I remember standing over his casket and he's in full uniform, just trying to figure things out. I didn't get it. So maybe that was the start of my interest in police work, in narcotics. Either way, I immediately gravitated towards officers who had the same desires. So one night, these three senior officers invited me to come along with them. They had a drug house that they'd identified, and they were going to do jumps, which basically means watch customers go in, and as they leave, find a reason to stop them, and then arrest them if they have drugs. Pretty simple. So they were watching the house, and they wanted me to be the stop vehicle, which meant they were going to call off the vehicles or the people as they came and left, and then it was my job to stop them. So I was sitting around the corner, just sitting in my car, playing around, and getting caught up on some paperwork. And as I was doing this, the radio starts to talk a little bit, right? And then these guys get on and they're like, hey, there's a car leaving. It's an older Mercedes, a white male driver, and we think you probably want to stop this one. I'm like, sweet. So I jump, I'm like ready to go. I'm like, all right, cool. I was in this alley. I see the older Mercedes come around the corner. Boom, I'm on him. Run the plate. Doesn't come back stolen or anything. Call off on traffic. He starts to pull over. And then he decides he's not going to pull over. He takes off. I'm like, oh, here we go. Super excited. Oh. So I was like, calm down. You got to sound super cool on the radio. So I calmed down. I'm like, all right. He is not stopping. So they secure the channel for me. He goes around the corner, dumps down in a side street. I come around the corner, go behind him on the side street, and literally his car had died. Like, he's just coasting down the street. And I'm like, well, I'm behind him again. It appears his car has died. Well, he managed to kick it back in or turn it back on, whatever he did. Off he went again. So off he went. Took another side street. Cut through a church parking lot. At this point, I'm like, okay, he's driving a little crazy, so I'm going to back off. And I did. So I'm calling off the directions, and as he cuts through the church parking lot, he's going to head back out to one of the main streets. By the time I get around the corner and see him cutting down this church parking lot, he's already like a quarter mile ahead of me. And he's about to get to the intersection. As I see him enter the intersection, all of a sudden, boom, there's a collision. See two cars spinning out of control, smoke flying in the air. I'm like, that's not good. So I quickly called it out. I approached the accident. I run up, yank him out of the car, cuff him up, and then went to check on the other car. Two women crying, a little blood from the head. I mean, they ended up being all right, but, traumatized by this accident. They just got T-boned. Well, all I could think of at this point was, what is my sergeant going to say? What is he going to say about what happened? These three senior officers, arrived on scene pretty quick. Like, I told them exactly what happened, but they didn't seem to believe me, right? Nobody was there. It was just me. And the sergeant, lieutenant show up on scene. I try and explain to them what happened. And the only thing that the lieutenant told me was, you might want to go back to the station or write this one up. Like, right now. Write down exactly what happened. And I was like, man, I was like all pissed off. I'm like, I was trying to stop a bad guy. He took off. I backed off. He hit the car. I mean, I don't know what you want me to do. I can't control his actions. So I was angry. I was frustrated. I was pissed off. I was all these different things. I didn't know what was going to happen. See, my fear was I was going to get a complaint for a pursuit that was unauthorized. So I wrote it up, exactly how it happened. A few months later, the case went before a review board, and I was exonerated. Why? Well, real simple. Between the radio traffic that I had given out, the witness statements, and the GPS tracker that was installed in my vehicle, I proved that I was doing exactly what I said I was going to do. It proved that I was doing exactly what I said I was doing. So I didn't know I was going to be in trouble. I didn't know if I was going to get suspended. I didn't know any of these things. I thought, am I going to lose my job? Right? What's going to happen here? The worst thing you can do in your career is feel like you're alone, right? Like you've been abandoned. It's a scary feeling. It's scary to think that your life is in someone else's hands. That you literally have no control over it. See, lucky for me, things worked out. Lucky for me, things worked out that night. They very easily could not have. Could have killed him. I could have been, right on his ass with lights and sirens. I could have caused the accident. Like a lot of things could have happened. See, but there's nothing worse than feeling alone, feeling abandoned. So ask yourself, when you look at your core 4, right? Ask yourself, where in your core 4 do you feel like you've abandoned yourself or someone else? Someone depended on you and you weren't there for them. Or you were supposed to show up for you and you didn't. Write down what it feels like. What does it feel like to be abandoned? But also write down what you can do to stop that feeling. How can you change? How can you make that negative something positive? See, if your wife feels like you've abandoned her because you work too much, how could you change that feeling? Maybe work less. Because it doesn't matter how much money you make. Your wife doesn't care. The only thing she cares about is whether you're going to be there for her and the kids or not. That's what she cares about. See, the road of life is hard enough. Don't make somebody go at it alone, especially somebody you love, especially yourself. Well, that's it for today. A couple things. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Warrior Guardian. On YouTube at The Real Warrior Guardian. Got some fun stuff for you. We'll see you on the next one.